Today it's time for the finals of the Monday Night Weekly. It's time for a best of 5 series for the lion's share of $300. Spawning right here in the top right corner. I think it's $300 or $400. Playing with the blue Terran SCVs, we have none other than ByuN. Down in the bottom left with the red Protoss probes, he goes by the name of MaxPax. Now, of course, the Monday Night Weekly, it uses a double elimination format. And in the upper bracket finals, these two played a best of 3 against each other. Now, I haven't seen those games, but I did look up the results, and it was ByuN who ended up winning the upper bracket finals 2-0, knocking MaxPax down to the lower bracket, where he won against Clem, and he climbed his way back into the grand finals. So there's a little bit of history here between these two of that same day already. Now it's a best of 5. If ByuN ends up winning this best of 5, he wins the entire tournament. However, if MaxPax wins this best of 5, we play one additional best of 3 because, of course, he came in from that lower bracket. And somebody corrected me in the YouTube comment section recently saying that I shouldn't call it the lower bracket, but I should call it the losers bracket instead. Look, I got shouted at by StarCraft tournament organizers in the past. They will not be named. I'm not calling anybody out here. But I was not supposed to call it a loser's bracket. And at this point, it is muscle memory for me to call it a lower bracket instead. I cringe a little bit when I hear myself saying loser's bracket. It's not good. So lower bracket it is. But it is definitely a loser's bracket because MaxPax, well, he already used up one of his lives in the tournament when ByuN knocked him down there. Now, I'm not sure exactly what strategies ByuN played getting into the grand finals when he played that upper bracket finals against MaxPax, but if I were to make a guess, hyper-aggressive 2-base pushes. That seems to be what ByuN is currently favoring a lot. He is building up a lot of those early game units, right? So he goes into the siege tank pressure. What is this? We have a very quick Marauder with a concussive shells on the back of this. Stuff like this is what ByuN has been winning a lot of games with against Protoss. I think across the board, MaxPax, a bit of a monster in the mid game, a bit of a monster in the late game. Not that his early game is weak or whatever, but he seems to be favoring the longer games right now. Whereas ByuN, at least at the beginning of the patch, he was very much so, right, enjoying playing the mid to late game, but he was not winning a lot of those matches. So he currently seems to be favoring... What the heck? Okay, never mind. This is one of the craziest early games I've seen from Terran in a while. So wait, we're going Marauders really quickly, a concussive shells rush, main command center here, and then also a third base set up further to the left. So he's gonna make this look like he's got weird, like a strange weird all-in coming in, when in reality, this is a super greedy beginning here for ByuN. One adept. Not enough units available to defend against it. This is a bit sad here for these Marauders because they're forced to go back home. I guess at the very least that's gonna lift up a little bit of the surprise for MaxPax, who was fully anticipating that those units would be arriving at his doorstep by now. Robo facility on the back of this. We've got ourselves the good old Blink as well. One thing I guess that MaxPax has been skipping out on a bit more as of late is those quick sentry builds. A lot of the Protoss players, when, again, the patch was first introduced, but already on the previous patch as well, they were going sometimes even sentry first to get those hallucination scouts going really early on, and obviously they would get all of the intel they would ever need. It got nerfed a little bit though, and ever since then, Protoss just apparently doesn't feel too comfortable playing that style anymore. And now MaxPax may very well be paying the price. He's going for a triple gate. Triple gate into a third Nexus, it looks like, so super normal start here for Max. ByuN is waiting though with a few units up on the high ground. Ready to snipe one of those stalkers if he can get his claws on it. Blink is not yet done, so that's one dead stalker for sure. Can we get a second one as well? Concussive shells are real nice. Yeah. And this is not bad here for ByuN. ByuN is happy to trade. Thing is, of course, that now the stalkers are going to be strong. With Blink done, those stalkers hit a big power spike. Third Nexus, by the way, did not yet start up. Instead, we're going Robo Bait. So So MaxPax is slowing this way down because he doesn't have a clue about the third. Prism goes into the main base. He's trying to piece a puzzle together, but he can't quite make a lot of sense of it. Charge also starts up. A super defensive approach here for MaxPax, whereas what he really needs, I think at the very least, is a base. He needs another expansion. He needs to be wondering at this point as well, though, where in the world are all those units? Third Nexus does begin. Some of the Terran's army indeed did move across the map. MaxPax yet again expecting a big push here. As soon as he sees the third base of the Terran, he will know that something else is going on this entire way through. So the Observer hasn't even bothered to check. He's just following this army around. MaxPax believes that he needs to just defend the 2 base all in, and he'll be okay. Whereas in reality, he is losing not just the army game, but he's also losing the eco game. Okay. One Stalker goes down here. Prism slides to the right again. One Colossus is out. Obviously, if you play super defensively, at some point it might just not be a bad idea to just go across the map. See if you could potentially win the game with it. Problem is, MaxPax prioritizing the Colossus production. Meaning that he's not going into the ranged upgrade for the Colossus. And I don't think you can really use the Colossi offensively without the extended thermal lens. They're pretty useful defensively. You can get him close to a shield battery or whatever. But yeah, now he starts up the upgrade. I think he's starting to suspect that something has been a little bit odd. Second engineering bay. Armory as well, beyond the mineral line. Really, are we gonna fight this, Max? I don't know, man. He does have a second Colossus out already. There it is. Zealot's actually doing in quite a bit of work. 3 SCVs, nothing to write home about. Now MaxPax, though, we'll see what he's actually playing against. And I don't think he'll be too happy. Then again, this is a completely undefended Terran base at the moment. One Zealot has been left behind. We have another group of Zealots now going to town in the natural expansion. And this is Operation Be As Much of a Prick As You Possibly Can Be. Doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but that is effectively what Protoss is trying to aim for. Try to be a jerk. We need to be so careful with those Colossi. You know what else is nice, though, if you want to be a jerk? Dark Shrine. 9 SCVs go down. Here we go. This is when Terran pulls the trigger. Stimpack has been activated. SCVs, though, are going to be eating those lasers for breakfast. I do think there's enough Marauders in the end to clean up this entire Protoss army, but my god, so much damage has been dealt. The Colossus is gone. It dies like a giraffe. I don't know how giraffes die, but that's what I picture. 29 SCVs there, in addition to the 4 that already died. This is kind of worked out here for MaxPax, at least somewhat. ByuN trying to defend against that Terran, or that Zealot group, rather, inside of the main base. Clearly not anticipating the Colossi to go into the third base. And honestly, I was also a little bit surprised. Usually the Colossi are only good when you have a bit of a buffer. Very preoccupied dealing with a single prism. Couple of Zealots go around the site. You know who doesn't care, though, about the Widow Mines? Invisible Men. You can't tell, but the Dark Templar has headphones in, and he's playing the Imperial March. Okay, he's going. We already have one as well inside of the main base and the natural expansion. How many scans are there available? Not enough! That's the only answer we need. A second scan finally does show up. But Darth Templar. Ay. I can't believe that I've been casting games for like a decade. And I've never made a Darth Templar joke. It only just came to me. Alright, anyways. 20 SCVs go down. 53 SCVs in total. Absolute disaster here for ByuN. considering how nicely this game started off, this has been massively problematic. And even though MaxPax likes being the more defensive player, right? It's very clear that he is perfectly capable of shifting gears. Yeah, MaxPax is so freaking good these days. I'm very impressed that he saw it so late, but immediately flipped the script and decided, okay, this is what I need to do now. That is very Serral-esque, very Rogue-esque, where when they have found themselves in situations in the past where they weren't entirely sure how to proceed, they always seem to have an answer immediately, and that decisiveness is so important. It's just that when I try out that sort of decisiveness, I immediately lose the game because I overcommit. But MaxPax, not quite. Having to deal with that, apparently. He knew immediately what the approach was, and... Well, he's not out of the woods just yet, though. This is still a massive Terran army. 103 army supply. ByuN's been cooking up a huge force for a long time. But in a way, this attack now is going to be almost like an all-in. I mean, it's well upgraded, though. He's got +2, +1. Ghosts are being added into the mix. MaxPax has been trading out a lot of expensive units. Yeah, he's gotten a lot of SCV kills, but is he good enough? 4 Colossi as well. I love the 4 Colossus. The norm has been to go for only 3 at most. Hero, though, has been going for more than 3. And now apparently, well, we have MaxPax taking a page out of the same book. Look at all the roasted Terran units. He's only got 8 gateways, but I think it's still enough. Yeah, the Marauders are just beefy, but they don't deal enough damage here. And much like the Terran army from the early game, trading is good enough here for MaxPax. He's got the superior economy. He is just building up a 5th Nexus, whereas ByuN doesn't even have a 4th. So it is 5 base Protoss, soon to be at least, versus 3 base Terran. So trading armies here will work out just fine. Even killing this base, I mean, it's obviously a step in the right direction, but I don't believe it's good enough here for ByuN. Cancel? Alright, no cancel. Instead, we have the Protoss maybe thinking about trying to save it. I think he might be able to pull that off, although it is going to push him out of a safe position. 1 Viking only, though. Look at the Colossus having a grand old time. Storm coming up on the back of this. Usually against the Colossus base start, you don't really need Ghosts that quickly, although it's still nice to have. So we do have a few of those bad boys in the mix, mostly just to try and EMP Zealots and clumped up Protoss units. But against the good old High Templar transition, it may just be what you need. We're, by the way, already nearly up to 10 Colossus now, which is kind of nuts. 10 Colossus in total in this game. Okay. Very flexible play here by MaxPax, right? I feel like a year ago, I used to criticize MaxPax on being a little bit too rigid sometimes, where, yes, he was incredibly good in straight-up games, but then, if the games somehow, some way got a little crazy, he seemed a bit lost, but he's been at least looking like he's freestyling. Maybe it's not freestyling, maybe he's just been in this situation before, and he has analyzed what he needs to do, and it's a very rigid version of a freestyle, but... yeah, brilliantly played so far. Turns out an Excel spreadsheet can look like a freestyle document as well. Just a very rigid version of the freestyle. 3-3. Oh, actually, +3, +2. Finishing up right here for MaxPax. ByuN did fire up the +3 infantry attacks, but never the +3 infantry armor in the second NG bay. He does have a 4th command center, though. So he is settling in right now for a macro match. That does mean he needs to transition at some point towards probably Liberators. Another Nexus here building for MaxPax, who's sitting at 87 probes, by the way. He's playing the Gateway Man economy, but with a very high-tech army instead. Storm. Ooh, Zealots going in around the side as well. A couple of Storms on this side, not a bad idea. Storms just last so freaking long these days. 12 additional SCVs die, and MaxPax is going to try and see if he can brute force this engagement. Is there enough, though? Here comes the Terran army. Colossi are looking exposed. I think actually ByuN wins this fight. Yeah, there's not enough firepower left here. It may very well be forcing ByuN into almost like a semi-all-in. Landed Vikings deal a lot of damage, as we have learned over the years. Little Zealot run by now. Honestly, needs to try and pull this Terran army back. It's a lot of orbital commands. But what about the main army? Ooh, bam, dude, bad storm. Massive storm to the face. ByuN loses more workers. Those Zealots are just tearing him apart. Another storm right over here. 85 SCVs have died this game. 85 SCVs in a 15-minute game is pretty crazy. The Zealot run-bys. The Zealot run-bys, the Dark Templar, the Psy Storms on the SCV lines. It is getting out of hand. ByuN kind of trying to remake some of the eco. Yeah, he cancels a few more of those SCVs. At least I believe he canceled them. I do sort of agree that that ship has sailed. I think we are done making workers. I think ByuN's best chance right now is to make one gigantic army and go for the all-in. One final shove for all the marbles. Let's see. The Zealots have been so insanely annoying, man. There's missile turrets everywhere. There's been Marines patrolling the perimeter as well. But somehow, some way, the Prism seems to make it through the cracks. GG. Wow. ByuN does not want to fight that particular force of the Protoss, and I can't blame him. Beautiful game number 1 here by MaxPax. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Winter Madness. And you know what? This feels appropriate. It's not snowing right now as of me casting it, but there was snow yesterday. Feels like it's a little early this year. It got very cold for a little bit. Anyways, Engineering Bay. Blocking the natural expansion of MaxPax. SCV, in the meantime, wanted to move on over towards the potential third. Instead, MaxPax decides to go for the forward third base. Interesting one. Usually, that's not what Protoss players really like. But I don't think MaxPax really minds it all too much. This time around, it's a reactor here onto the barracks, so no tech lab. Small switch up from the previous game. At least we're not going to see a super quick third base this time around, and I don't believe we're going to be seeing a Marauder push either. Nexus, or Terran Nexus, starts up. ByuN, by the way, switching over to the icy blue colors. Maybe trying to blend into the background here a little bit more. Is this map, by the way, also less bright? They have certainly made a few adjustments to this map when it became a ladder version, right? So I did cast this map about a month or so ago as part of the TLMC games. But yeah, they've reduced the amount of snow, and I feel like previously it was also more of like a flashbang, where I apologize to viewers that are watching this at like 3 in the morning on the 85-inch widescreen television, right? With all the lights turned off, but your computer or your television's brightness up to the max. This map used to be a literal flashbang. I mean, it's still quite bright, but I feel like it's more blue. I think they've toned down the map's design features a little bit. Probably for the best. It's usually what happens, right? So, the TLMC, you're judging the maps, and then before they become ladder maps, they still get like one final pass to make them the best that they can be. Now, because of this forward expansion here, it is a relatively short trip from the Terran's natural, towards this expansion of the Protoss. So ByuN is going to start fishing. He's fishing with a Cyclone. Throw it out. There we go. Throw out the bait. Turns out the fish is fighting back. A couple of missed fire shots on the side of the Terran. That shield battery is nice, isn't it? Okay. He gets one Stalker. One Stalker, one Adept. A lot of bruised Terran units. This Cyclone really needs to be careful. It's dead. Okay. High ground vision. Loses the lock-on. Lovely bit of micro here as well by MaxPax. Yeah. Blink is, by the way, coming. Oh, Max. Woo. Yeah, it puts a smile on my face. That's so sick. Like, we can all micro one Stalker, right? One Stalker is not that hard. But if you have to do, like, 5 of them and they're all, you know, you need to track them and see where all of the little bits of damage is going. I mean, ByuN has been known as Micro Jackson for a long time. But these early game exchanges are going awfully nicely for Max. That was even without Blink. Now we have Blink and a Prism. Suddenly the sky is the limit with these units. Oh, this could be so big. No siege tank in the main base. Second tank just about to spawn. I think... Okay, that was a little bit sloppy. I think the amount of Terran available here will be enough. And obviously he is fighting with units here that are deep into the red HP. Natural expansion, by the way, has been taken ever since. Charge coming up together with the Immortal. Stimpack, combat shields, +1 infantry. We don't yet have an engineering bay. We do need an engineering bay, ByuN. Yeah, this now becomes a bit of an odd game. If he wants to go for a timing attack without an engi bay, the game becomes very difficult. Maybe he just wants to go for an attack right now. No third command center, though. Do we pull the boys? Yeah, we do pull the boys. Okay, I was gonna say. One attack here for ByuN. If you can get the tanks in the right position, that would obviously be massive. Oh, that force field between the rocks. You just sit there and wait for a moment. Clock is ticking, though. Chrono boost onto the Twilight Council to get that charge upgrade done. Chrono boost onto the Robo facility as well to get the Immortals out. Immortals are being built very close to where the fight is going to take place. Numbers, though, currently heavily favoring ByuN. Second Immortal is out. Beautiful delay right here at MaxPax, but does he actually have enough? Okay, here go the bunkers. Scary attack still, though. Ooh, we have a push straight through it. Immortals do get on top of the siege tanks. Prism trying to get this army surrounded. Honestly, this was a near perfect game from MaxPax. An absolute banger. And now suddenly, we are just one map away from the reset match. So again, since ByuN pushed MaxPax down to the lower bracket, we play one additional best of 3 if MaxPax indeed wins this best of 5. If, however, ByuN ends up winning the best of 5, the tournament is over, and ByuN will be the victor. That final attack from ByuN in the previous game was forced, but it was also not perfectly executed, if I'm very critical. There's really not that much you can do. But I do believe that maybe he was just a little bit frustrated. And maybe we continue the frustration some more now with some proxy barracks out in the middle of the map. Alright, sure. MaxPax is scouting. He is just going for the good old main base pylon here, so not trying to wall off against Reapers or anything along those lines. This will be when MaxPax realizes that something is wrong. Gas guys are taken. No barracks spotted. It clearly means that there are barracks out there somewhere. But where? Sometimes they're going to be in the corner. Sometimes they're going to be out on the low ground. Sometimes they're hiding in the natural. But more often than not, they are going to be out on the map. Second probe scout looking around as well. MaxPax did go for the 20 supply Cybercore, I think. And then now into about a 22 supply Nexus. Fair enough. He needs to get units going here. ASAP. A Marauder all-in. This time it's an actual all-in. It's what ByuN tried to fake out in the first game. But then obviously his units were found on his side of the map, so... It's a really weird proxy if you're proxying your own natural. Wait. Oh, he cancelled the concussive shells. He hit a supply block here as well. He cancelled concussive shells, restarts it again. Maybe ByuN is tilting a little bit. Honestly, this is a bit messy. I thought the end push of the previous game was also a little clumsy. Are we rage queuing games? Except we're not queuing, but we're using custom maps to host a tournament series? Either way, this is still a scary push. Double shield battery. MaxPax just barely missing it here. He needs to back up pylon on the low ground if he wants to keep all of this alive. Second Stalker just about to come out. Super scary defense here, though, for Max. If the pylon falls... if the pylon falls, then all of this is unpowered. I think we need a backup pylon here, Max. He obviously doesn't have a lot of resources, though. Another shield battery. We need a pylon. Okay, he's using it right here to heal up the battery yet again. Or use the battery, rather, to heal up the pylon. Now a pylon starts up. 5 Marauders are dancing, though, with 2 Stalkers. And yeah, you can easily out-damage this, well, group of units available. Scan reveals that there is nothing on the high ground. And ByuN does get a point on the board. That takes us to the Old Republic. Engineering bay block down into the natural expansion of the Protoss yet again. MaxPax yet again forced to go for, well, the next expansion. ByuN was blocking the 3rd base. MaxPax just takes the forward expo. He did the same thing on Winter Madness too. Very aggressive positioning here. So obviously, all the top-level Protoss players have been looking at those hero games. Hero has been very successful as of late. Not just against Terran, but also against Protoss, also against Zerg. Hero, without a shadow of a doubt, at least in my mind, currently the best Protoss player. At least as far as pure craziness and variety goes. There's just nobody that can really top him. I do have to say, though, that across the board, MaxPax really does seem inspired by that playstyle, looking at this particular series so far. He's playing a little bit more flexibly. Look at this, Stargate opener here as well. But a little bit more flexibly, a little bit more aggressive as well. Not afraid to go into like 4 or 5 Colossus. Not afraid to mix and match different playstyles. Not afraid to really be more committed to attacks. And I think that's in general a theme that we have been seeing from those hero games. Yeah, maybe without a shadow of a doubt is a little bit strong now. Because I have to say, Max in this series here in general has been looking very solid. I mean, the previous game was a loss, but... you know, you can lose to a cheese, right? That happens. Okay. So it's going to be a Phoenix opener here. A Phoenix opener from the Protoss player. Usually you go Phoenixes into charge slots or Phoenixes into Colossus. As of the new balance patch, usually it is Phoenixes into charge slots and then into Storm. Seems to be what most Protoss players are favoring at the moment. We'll have to pay attention to exactly what the follow-up here from MaxPax is going to be. I like the Hellions, though. The Hellions are nice. It takes 3 Hellions to one-shot a probe. So like this, it all becomes a little bit messy. Yeah. Huh. Pretty much perfect. Again. No panic. No movement here on the probes, really. Calm and collected. Sweet little bit of defense there. Okay. What is it going to be? A Twilight Council. Yes. So this will indeed be Phoenixes into charge. Engineering bay coming up right now for ByuN. Double tech lab as well inside of the main base in a moment. Now, of course, playing against Phoenixes is always just a giant pain in the ass. Because you just seem to not be able to move out here. So if you're the Terran player and you play against Phoenixes, you just kind of feel like you are playing against a wall. Like, you can't really go anywhere. Sure, you can move out. Sure, we're pulling the boys yet again. But it's dangerous. Because if the siege tanks... Imagine this attack here from the Terran player, but then without the siege tanks. Right? What? Like, this attack does nothing. And obviously, the Phoenixes can lift up the tanks. No worries. It is yet again a forward expansion, of course. So maybe that is what is enticing ByuN a little bit. But he is dancing here. ByuN is on the clock, though. If charge finishes up... No chrono boost here by MaxPax. Apparently, he's feeling pretty confident. But if charge finishes up... He could be in a world of trouble. Because this Terran army is just going to get sliced to death. No easy force field position, though. A couple of misrallied SCVs, a little bit ahead of the party. Reinforcing units. Chasing down whatever they can. Not enough energy here available on those Phoenixes to keep lifting. But I do believe that this siege tank is going to have a hard time joining up with its brother, so... maybe I'm wrong. There we go. Siege tank still obviously quite beefy. But what MaxPax is really hoping for, though, is just to... No way. I think ByuN is tilting. I think ByuN is... That was also not ideal. Now, I was thinking that MaxPax was hoping that charge was going to finish up. But I think he was hoping even more that his opponent was not going to defend that siege tank and feel forced to GG out. I think ByuN could have been a little bit more careful with that third tank. Either giving it an escort of a few Marines, or maybe coming back with some of the forward Marines when he saw that the Phoenixes didn't have enough energy to lift off. Instead, he just sort of let that siege tank wander through the middle of the map and crossed his fingers and hope for the best. Not ideal whatsoever. So that means we have the reset match. The reset match. One best of 3 for the entire tournament. MaxPax seems to have ByuN's number so far, but it is important that usually, after a series like the previous one, there is a little bit of a break. Maybe not an actual time to get away from the computer for a minute or two, but it's very likely that they did spend some time doing the vetoes and all the rest of it, right? So the map vetoes, it does take a few minutes. At least it might be a moment here for ByuN to just, get back into the groove. Because I honestly feel, even though he did win one of the games that we just watched, but I honestly feel like he has been a little out of it as far as the control game, or as far as the control goes. But rage queuing is a real thing, right? If you have ever done any competitive game ever, it is so easy to just rage queue. When you just lost the game to something frustrating and you instantly queue up again, only for you to start off the next game frustrated, so you're much more likely to lose then too. MaxPax scouting around his side of the map right now. He does not believe that this is what he has scouted. So I like this here from ByuN, right? So ByuN faking yet again that this is going to be a proxy marauder play, when in reality... there it is. The barracks indeed is just inside of the main base, but a little bit off the beaten path. It means that there is no proxy. And that MaxPax has technically wasted not just a little bit of potential mining time, but he also made a zealot, which usually you cancel. Nexus on the low ground. Significantly delayed now because of the entire thing. And yet again a Stargate. Okay. I really like Phoenix openers. I think Phoenixes are one of the coolest units in the entire game. We don't really see them all too often. But, I mean, Hero has been playing them a bit. I'm sure that MaxPax has been looking at those games from Hero, and he's like, wait, what do we do to win? Sorry, what strategies are we playing, Hero? What is the best way to beat Terran? We do a little bit of literally everything. Great. Thank you, Hero. Yeah, if you want to get better as a Protoss player, maybe don't study the Hero games. Even though Hero is like the highest ranked Protoss player, I think, right now, maybe don't study them too much, because there's very little sense. It works because Hero has a very wide scope of knowledge, but not so easily copied. Zealot is going to die. Unless we can get the Adept in here. Yeah. Adept is showing up. Never talk to me or my son ever again. Maybe we need a name for the Adept. That's a very Brenda-esque thing to say, I suppose, but... The Reaper Man going across. A little bit of scouting at the front, and you will see that there is indeed a tech lab onto the factory, which can only really mean that it's a Cyclone. And Cyclones are excellent Adept killers. Robo facility this time around. So MaxPax didn't get to show the charge slot in the previous game, right? Like he made a charge slot follow-up after the Phoenix build, but he never got to show it. But apparently now we're mixing it up anyway. Look at this, by the way, as well. MaxPax taking a page out of Hero's book. He doesn't care at all about the pylon indicator. Very nice. We have entered the Rockstar era of MaxPax. I mean, I say that. I think most StarCraft 2 pro gamers are quite literally the opposite of Rockstar. Whatever that would be. Anyways, I picture now that MaxPax is playing this with his leather jacket on at the very least. He's gonna drive around his motorcycle later today. Let's see. Phoenixes swoop around the site. Robo Bay coming up. But this is not bad, though, for ByuN. Getting a snipe right there onto one of the Phoenixes. Phoenixes are usually good in numbers. If you lose a few of them here and there, it does get a bit messy, but obviously it's only a single one thus far. Not the end of the world, but better prevented. There's the Robo Bay as well. No third Nexus yet, though. So a very safe approach, all things considered. NG Bay. Needs to be. Yep. NG Bay, double tech lab right here onto the barracks. Third command center right now is done. We should see the Stimpack combat shields plus 1 infantry attacks fire up here within the next half minute or so for ByuN, for everything to be okay for him. There is, of course, that gold base in the bottom left-hand corner. ByuN, who's been playing a lot of games against Hero. He knows he needs to check for this sort of thing. Not the case, though, for Max. Just building the third Nexus right over here. Although I don't disagree with ByuN. I actually think the third Nexus over here would be really quite nice. MaxPax knows that the timing attack here from the Terran has been delayed by the Terran. So, if you know that you can get away with it, right? He's seen the timing of the additional barracks. He knows that Stimpack is going to be late. He knows that the third command center is already done. Maybe going for the gold base is not a bad choice. He decided not to go for it, though. Twilight Council together with a Forge. Extended Thermal Lens upgrade. About halfway done. Now, I mentioned it briefly at the very start of this entire finals. But I believe this is exactly the type of game that MaxPax prefers playing. And that ByuN has not been finding a lot of success in as of late. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But most of the time when we see Terrans going up against the likes of MaxPax... Right? There's only a handful of Protoss players really at this level, but they are so freaking strong in the mid to late game. And now MaxPax has effectively gotten a free pass to that part of the game. ByuN is going to play a very passive approach. We've been seeing this a lot from not just ByuN, but also from, for example, Young, right? Like, we've seen it a lot from the Korean Terrans in general, where they're sitting back, they're basically treating themselves like they are a punching bag, and they just give Protoss free reign. Now, how is MaxPax using that freedom? Templar Archives coming up, additional gateways coming up. He's not actually going for the mass expansion style, which is interesting. MaxPax usually likes to use this sort of freedom, I guess, just to go up to like 100 probes, mass expand, mass Stalker Zealot all over the map. But now we decide to go for a more eco-focused style, or a more tech-focused style, rather. So, a lot more... Yeah, Vespian gas being harvested. We will see a fourth Nexus. But he is aiming for a powerful army, rather than a large one. He really doesn't have that many units. Like, this is basically the army right over here. There is... How many Zealots? 0. No, 1. Sorry, guy. Sorry, my man. Sorry. Is this a guy from the early game? Oh, yeah. Must be. Archon's coming up right now, though. My only concern with this style here for Terran is that, yeah, it's strong, but it's also so freaking passive. At least ByuN is not just gonna sit back the entire way through, though. Sometimes we have Terran players just waiting until they max out before they actually do anything. ByuN delaying those upgrades, but is still gonna try and hit the timing. 2-2, though, did start up in the meantime. 4th Command Center, I was wondering about that. Okay, 4th Command Center has also started up before Barracks 6, 7, and 8. So ByuN is going for just a little bit of pressure. Maybe, though, we're going to find out why usually Terran players skip this. Siege tanks get lifted off. Immortal tries its very best. Still, though, there is so much Marine Marauder on the ground. Those Colossi backing up to the safety of the shield battery. A few Vikings up in the air. Photon cannon used for zoning purposes. That looked a little bit dicey there for just a moment. But MaxPax stays alive. Prism getting intercepted. Nicely done. Okay. Now the High Templar, though, have the weather forecast ready to go. Energy recharge onto this one Templar over here. It is going to be able to lay down the storm wherever he points his arms. Fourth Command Center probably is going to go down to the low ground if I were to make a guess. Probably over here, rather than over here. Marine Marauder Medevac Ghost. Bunch of Vikings up in the air. Good zoning here by ByuN, though. Really good positioning here in general. Can't really break through the storms. But you can see those Vikings, right? Those Vikings are putting in the work. There is a lot of anti-air in this Protoss army. But if the Protoss anti-army or the anti-air cannot hit it, it doesn't really matter all too much. Another Colossus goes down. Easy kill on this Nexus. Oh, we gotta go. What? We don't kill the Nexus? There is no way. ByuN! This Nexus was dead. You just killed the Prism. What? He just all army hotkeyed this entire force back home because of a couple of Zealots that were running by. Does he not notice? Maybe he didn't see that the Nexus didn't die. Massive oversight right there for ByuN. He's still in a good spot. Nexus dying or not. But for obvious reasons, it's really nice to be able to kill your opponent's bases. I'm surprised he didn't actually snipe it. That was an easy opportunity for it. Like literally one volley of these units away. And MaxPax was kind of huddled up on the high ground. Couldn't really get down there. I think this map, by the way, Tato Citadel, these couple of pillars over here, this whole little setup right over here is going to turn out very interesting for the Viking versus Colossus dance that we see so much in this matchup. Okay. 3-3 starts up instead, though, for ByuN. He's building up his own eco. 5th Command Center fires up. 5th Nexus in the meantime also at a pretty reasonable time here for MaxPax. But of course, most of the time we see Terrans behind in the expansions. Not really the case here. MaxPax is, because of it, going to double expand. But he is a little bit behind supply-wise. He doesn't have that big of an economy either. We've actually likewise seen this position on the map already create problems, right? Planetary Fortress in this spot. Not really something you can run Zealots into or even Zerglings. Curious to see how MaxPax is going to navigate this. I wonder actually how Tato Citadel works out for this particular matchup. Seems like a nice one overall for Terran, at least looking at those couple of features. Nexus on the low ground in a world of trouble. Are we going to finish it off this time around? ByuN, just kill the freaking base! Okay, he is going to be able to kill the base this time. No cancel, though, from the Protoss. A little flank. I mean, maybe not so little in the end. So many of those Terran units end up getting destroyed because of it. I saw the Zealots initially and I thought they were just going to die. Then I saw the 2 High Templar. Makes a big difference. Fusion Core, added into the mix too. 4 command centers coming up. Now remember the command center addiction that we have talked about so many times already. ByuN has a bit of a command center problem. Where sometimes he makes so many CCs that he just runs out of cash. He has so many rental properties, but he's homeless. It's weird. There's a lot of command centers, by the way, dying here. There's another one? Yeah. Messy engagement over here as well. what a fight. Problem is, ByuN just can't find an angle here. Nice EMPs. Good, ooh, yeah, good feedbacks as well. I just think this Protoss army is way better. Terran's been bleeding out so many troops. Partly due to the flank that we saw, but also just because MaxPax immediately countered. That's like 4 command centers going down. The one on the low ground probably won't make it, at least if this Colossus has anything to say about it. But maybe MaxPax feels like he can actually just go straight for the throat. I don't entirely disagree. Where's the Prism? Okay, Prism is joining in with the main army right now. The Vikings are doing a pretty good job, but they are all gone right here. Wow. We go from Terran killing a base to getting flanked and then immediately destroyed with the counterattack. I think if ByuN would have killed the base at the 6 o'clock position, this game would have looked very different. Next up, we find ourselves on 10,000 feet. Yet again. I feel like ByuN is creating opportunities for himself. And all he needs to do is take them, but then he doesn't. He could have sniped the Nexus. He could have, like, maxed out before making, like, 4 or so command centers all at once. It doesn't take much, though, from the likes of MaxPax to punish him. It is the fragility, of course, of StarCraft 2 in general. Terran really has that to a pretty serious extent. You have to make these big decisions as far as resource spending goes, and if you don't make the right ones, you pretty much immediately die. I think Protoss and Zerg are likely a little bit more forgiving in that department. Zerg, obviously, because of creep threat. So even if you do get like a big counterattack, rarely do the opponents just go straight deep onto creep and then try to kill you. They have to go through all of the creep threat first, and you get a bit of a delay that way. Protoss, of course, has that warp-in mechanic, the energy recharge mechanic too, so at the very least you can get some of your units out, and possibly with enough energy as well for example, Psystorm. But with Terran, you usually get punched as soon as you make a mistake like that. Proxy starport. Okay. I would have really liked it, by the way, if 10,000 feet was called like 3,000 meters on the European server. I'm just saying, I would have liked it a lot. Why so many feet? Quentin? Tarantino? Yeah, it's okay. It's alright. I never quite understand the idea of feet, though. Like, I know a foot is like 30 centimeters-ish. Is a foot actually that big? Like, how long is an average foot? Length, average foot. 26.7 centimeters. So whoever standardized the measurement foot had really large feet, I guess. All right, let's see. ByuN goes into the main base now with his nice little Hellion drop, and I do like this. On the map, 10,000 feet, the distance that you need to travel is not that large. And for the first time, MaxPax seems to be struggling. I feel like MaxPax has been cruising the early games so far in all of these matches that we've watched. Finally, ByuN is able to get something done. There it is. $11 probes for 1 Hellion. That's pretty darn good. It's the same for shoe sizes, actually. Shoe sizes are just weird. I don't understand why we don't just have a standard for this globally, you know? Also, I feel like when you buy shoes from one brand, it can be wildly different in size compared to the next brand. What's up with that? Why can't the shoe just be like the inside length in centimeters or something along those? It doesn't seem rocket science. It doesn't seem that hard. I don't understand why there's no logic with any of that. This is the shoemaker's conspiracy. I would like to start it up. Now that we are on 10,000 feet, those are the type of things that we need to discuss. Anyways, little stalker push here on the other side of the map in the meantime after the Hellions got cleaned up. Starport is making the flight of shame all the way back home. Do you think the Marines get, like, custom shoes? Or do you think they just, like, they're basically convicts in, like, spacesuits, right? And I don't think they're treated particularly well. Do you think they get, like, properly sized shoes? I mean, I feel like walking around in a Marine suit is difficult as it is. They're only 50 minerals now, so it can't be that high-tech. Maybe they're bare feet. Actually, I think Tygus in the Wings of Liberty cinematic is barefoot, right? I think he's got bare feet when he's stepping into the thing. Yeah, he is. He definitely is. Maybe Quinton can let us know. Quinton! Anyways. Siege tank push right here by ByuN. Needs to be careful. But of course, the Stalkers can just get away. Charge is going to be critical yet again, though, for this particular attack. Nice scan there by ByuN. ByuN doesn't have a third command center this time around. Starport is obviously delayed. One of the downsides now for going for this type of follow-up is that he will not have Medivacs in time to really support this particular push. That's one of the reasons why MaxPax went for the third Nexus. He assumes that this attack is not coming. Cancels the Nexus. I think that's the right choice. Storm and Charge are finishing within the next half minute. They're both... I think he only really needs Charge, but they're both critical upgrades here. Scary push, though, from the Terran. Let's see. Can ByuN double down the aggression? Oh, High Templar merged together into an Immortal, an Archon. What shoe size do you think Archons have? I mean, they float, but High Templar have shoes. Do you think there's 4 shoes? No, actually, they're barefoot. Man, crazy. Here we go. Charge is done. Storm is also done. I think there's enough here. I think there is enough for MaxPax to break through this. It's a bit messy, but he's got the stuff that he needs. Yeah, High Templar definitely have feet. But I don't think they're wearing shoes. I don't know about the Archons, though. Hard to say. I don't even know if they have legs. Do they have stomachs? What if the Archon is, like, completely ribbed under... He's got, like, an 8-pack right underneath all of the pulsing energy. Could be. Man. Now that I think about it some more, I do believe that the map name, 10,000 feet, it makes somebody think, you know? Either that or I've been casting StarCraft for too long today. And I'm slowly losing my mind. Here we go again, counterattack. Prism is in the back. Ooh, I love the 2 Vikings. Vikings here are so important. A little odd to make against this type of army. Prism is going to die. Can we recall this? Do we recall this? I think he wants to, but he also knows that it's going to take a while. Instead, we have reinforcing units showing up. Keep in mind that the Prism died. So you'd imagine right now as the Terran player that we are not going to see a follow-up counterattack. He charges, though, at the bunker. Widowmines are getting a good bit of damage done. Another Archon. Third Nexus, by the way, of course, was remade during all of this. Stutter step control here by ByuN, as expected, is going to be good. Good dodge as well on that particular attack. Oh, no, don't fight. Oh, no, I don't like this. I don't think you fight Archons with SCVs, man. They deal splash damage like crazy. Wow. Yeah, you clean up the army, but you lose the entire base. At least the entire base worth of workers. That's 24 SCVs dying. I guess ByuN really wanted to get that army off of his front door, but he needs to now counterattack and retaliate. A new prism, though, was indeed produced. And this could be big as well. There's no units available here for the Terran at the moment, although we have a few Marauders just about to pop. Okay. What about the fight here at the front? High Templar? Good. Immortal also available. Yeah, this is where those storms just last so much longer. Did the prism die again? Ah, the Vikings must have indeed gotten it. Fight at the front, though, not going all too nicely here for ByuN. Yeah. And now we have these SCVs sacrificed. And I guess he got that Protoss army, well, out of his base, but I really don't believe that was worth it. He did make a third command center during all of it, so at the very least, he's not entirely out of the game. But this is certainly not a good spot here for ByuN to be in. Fourth Nexus, in the meantime, is building. MaxPax is, yet again, look at the aggression, right? MaxPax is just not letting this game breathe for a moment. ByuN actually overmade Medevacs. 6 Medevacs is much for this army. He needs to be a bit careful. We do have Blink as well. EMP. Decent EMP. I love the 1 Medevac, 1 Ghost. Wouldn't mind getting a good hit in. High Templar does still have energy enough for the Storm. He wants to zone against this third base. That's what he's here for. But there's no mining at the third base anyways, other than 3 SCVs. You don't really need to commit too much here as Max. But you know what? He wants to strike while the iron is hot. He needs to get a good storm, though. And so far... Ooh. So far, he's not getting it. Prism number 3. Going to attempt what the previous 2 could not get done. Did you, by the way, know that the Prism has a little pylon built inside of it? You see the little pylon right over here at the front? And then when it sieges up, the pylon is kind of like... See the little crystal? When it sieges up, the pylon can be used for warpins. Can you siege up? Can we just, like, look at it? No, we're not going to look at it. We're busy. This blew my mind when I first saw it. Alright, anyways. We're still dancing here in the middle of the map. Immortal misrelied. A little scouting immortal? Nah, not really a scouting immortal. Maybe somewhat of a scouting immortal. Yeah. It's okay. Zealot Warpin right over here. Prism is going to try and get in now that he has spotted that the Vikings are indeed not inside of the main base, since they are joined with the main army. Here we go. Super annoying, of course. What about this 4th Nexus? Is there enough for the Protoss to actually defend against it? The EMPs are going to have to be good. We have a flank coming in yet again, just like in the previous game. He's hoping that maybe he can get the surround on this Terran army. Decides to re-rally the units now to the other side of the map. What a dance. A couple of reinforcing Terran units. Not going to be able to join with the main army. Here goes the Flanky Boy, but Flanky Boy doesn't have energy. As a matter of fact, there is no energy anymore for any storms here at the front. Zealot Warpin is going to be nice. I think since this engagement has been going on for such a long time, yeah, the Bio army is low in HP. It's a tiny little flank. This bad boy still does not have energy for Side Storm. Could have been a disaster here for ByuN. He's just joining in by throwing water balloons at the Terran player. Water balloons not very good for killing stuff. Alright. I mean, you could probably kill somebody with water balloons, but... You know, they'd have to be mostly dead already, I think. It's gonna take a lot of water balloons to kill me, guys. I don't want to flex or anything. Prism goes around. Drops off its cargo. Doesn't achieve much. It does spot, though, that ByuN made a 4th command center during all of this. ByuN grabbed the supply lead yet again. New expansion in the far top right here for Max. Still trying to be a little bit of a jerk. Look, there's the little... You see the little pylon? Yeah. I think the scale is a little bit messy. Because I think pylons are much bigger than they actually are in multiplayer. And then the prism is much, much bigger, and the pylon is probably the normal size of a regular pylon. Anyway, Viking has now found it. Recall, since it's only a single Viking, is going to complete just fine. And it looks like we have a moment to breathe. Now, who blinks first? Do you go... I mean, I would imagine it's probably the Stalkers. Loki, you're so funny. I'm going to hit the like button. Thank you. Who transitions first into anything else? Do you go into... I mean, you could go into Skytools. Do you go into Liberators? Probably not. In a game as clumsy, as messy as this one, it makes the most sense to just do more of the same. But you also know that if you're going to play it passively and your opponent is cutting a corner here, say ByuN is going into Liberators now, you might not want to let your foot off the gas too much. Because if you give him too much room to wander around, you're probably going to be fighting an army you can't really beat. Likewise here for ByuN, he does not want to be playing against Skytools or anything along those lines. So in a way, by constantly attacking, you keep face-checking your opponent. Can we kill the Nexus this time around? That would be nice. We could have killed the Nexus. He didn't know, though, how far away that army was. Storm is pretty good, isn't it? Ay, ay, ay. +3, +2. +2, +2 in the meantime for ByuN. +1 air weapons here coming up as well for our Terran. So he is starting to slowly at least prepare for a potential late game transition, although obviously it will still be very helpful as well with the Vikings going up against all of those Colossi. Probe transfer gets spotted. MaxPax may need to group everything up together, and he may accidentally get the flank that he's been hoping for. He decided to split up his units quite a lot. ByuN knows it, though. He does not want to maneuver his army into this direction, because he would get absolutely trashed with that entire Protoss army collapsing on top of him. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 finally coming up. I can't believe only just now. He's been on 5 racks this entire game long. That's crazy. ByuN looking for an opening. Trying to see if he can somewhat break up towards this high ground. Not so easily achieved. Okay. Trying to get close to the Nexus again. Storm is ignored. Do we have enough here with the Vikings to kill the Colossi? One Colossus goes down. Second Colossus goes down as well. Archons are being destroyed. Little hit squad as well towards the top right-hand corner. Here's the flank yet again. MaxPax yet again with the flank. I was wondering where the other half of his army went. It decided to make the long route around. And just like the previous game, ByuN's army supply plummets as MaxPax sandwiches everything. Beautiful. Now that is something we've not really seen Hero do much. But it's very effective. It just takes a long time, right? Because you have to move your army slowly around the site. And yeah, maybe you feel like StarCraft 2 is a fast-paced game, but when you're waiting for the sandwich to be sandwich, it's not so easily done. Can feel like a lifetime. Little Artosolope running around, trying his very best. This Nexus will die a third time over. But what about the main army at the front? Should we not have all of the Terran units back home? MaxPax, using the army hotkey, it looks like, has decided to just bring everything here. Maybe he didn't, actually. There's still some Terran troops in the top right-hand corner. Final Colossus goes down. But at this point, MaxPax is smelling blood. He has got 16 gateways. And there is just no stopping the flood. Hey, by the way, my scoreboard was set up incorrectly. I flipped the scoreboard halfway through the game. And then Anyways, it is MaxPax who wins the reset match 2-0. So first he wins the best of 5 finals 5-1. And in the reset match, because he came from the lower bracket, is also a 2-0 win. That means that even though ByuN has been playing some very competitive games of StarCraft, the only game that he won in this entire grand finals was the double proxy barracks cheese. That's kind of crazy.